This story is entirely fictional and for entertainment purposes only. 6 years after our last meeting, I'd already become a well-known playboy and spendthrift in B City. Thanks to the Liu family's wealth, you can't blame me. I'm tall, rich, and good-looking. The beautiful boy from the novel had grown from a pale, skinny stick into a striking, refined high schooler with an air of quiet nobility. I stared at his test paper, expression unreadable. All his subjects scored only 20 or 30 points. It's all fake. What novels call concealing your strength. That's exactly what he's guarding against. People like me. Just minutes ago, the kid walked in with one hand on his backpack, paused mid-step, and glanced at me. No emotion, no reaction at all. He's just turned 15 this year. 6 years ago, that bathroom incident. Had I been in his shoes, I'd have hated him to the bone. But even if I jumped into the Yellow River, I couldn't wash this off. I didn't do it. I arrived after Franklin was already unconscious. It was the housekeeper who found him and called for help. The injuries were serious, but lucky. Liu family had the means to get proper care fast. Because of that incident, John fully accepted Franklin and took him in as his second son. Me? I was exiled abroad for a long reflection, but even the best days come to an end. Just about to say something to ease the tension, a sudden surge of static crackled through my mind. Main character's affection toward you drops by 50 points. It's fine. I'm used to it. 6 years abroad, and the hatred points still pop up now and then. Score this poorly. What's even the point of studying at Liu family? Franklin might be faking it, but Mateo? He's genuinely a waste. That's why he ended up wandering around overseas. I glanced at the date, then tore the test in half. Shreds scattered across the floor. I let out 2 cold snorts. Franklin, I'm back now. You see this? If you mess with me from now on, this is what happens. I didn't look back as I walked away. Those were last week's tests. Still had grading marks. Not sure why they weren't thrown out, but at least I've played the script. Mission accomplished. I passed by him on purpose, letting my lips curl into a dark smile, but I didn't notice the storm beneath Franklin's lowered lashes. If his eyes were calm seas before, now they were churning. His gaze drifted slowly until it landed on me. I didn't sense a thing, just stood outside the room, chin in hand, thinking, wait. Where's Lu Chen's room again? I never even stepped into my own bedroom when I first arrived. 2 minutes later, Franklin pushed open the door next to mine. That's it. I let out a breath and opened the door, only for heat to wash over me. A boy, just slightly shorter than me, looked up with quiet calm. I took some things from your room earlier. Franklin's voice was rough, a low rasp from somewhere in his throat. Like he'd been talking too much during that awkward stretch of growing up. I gave a tight nod and forced my tone to sound like an adult. Deliberately flat, just shy of mocking. Been a while since I last came back. Can I take a look around your little paradise? Franklin's profile was sharp, his frame pausing mid-motion. Go ahead. The door creaked open, and his voice came out soft. Just a hint of gravel in it. Everything you've given me, he said slowly, as locking onto mine. Even me. I'm yours to do with as you please. I sucked in a breath and held it. God help me, I'm just an innocent bystander. Dragged into this mess with no warning, and honestly, I didn't ask for any of it. I'm just a regular underachiever, stuck in the grind with no real luck in life. But I've got a secret. I'm into BL, can't help it, really. One night, I was glued to my phone watching my favorite drama when, boom. I had a heart attack and woke up inside the very story I'd been obsessing over. I didn't even get a choice in the matter, but that's how it went. I ended up as Mateo, the villainous stepbrother who torments the beautiful younger man and gets his comeuppance by the protagonist. The original me was part of a blended family. His father married Franklin's mom, but she abandoned Franklin shortly after the wedding, fleeing across the ocean. She even called to beg her husband to take care of him. Complete moral failure. Pure emotional betrayal. Everyone saw Franklin as a burden. Just another problem to be dealt with. When I first arrived, the story was already moving fast. The poor boy had gone so hungry he stole leftover food from me. And of course, I caught him. That's when my old personality kicked in. Cowardly and cruel at once, so I used it as an excuse to torment Franklin. The beauty of the protagonist was undeniable. Still breathtaking, even in such a state. No time to marvel at the story's creation. just enough to make a loud noise on purpose while he was unconscious, drawing someone's attention to Franklin. I still remembered that static buzzing in my mind back then. Congratulations, host. Franklin's dislike toward you has increased by 10 again. But not long after, another notification came through. Static. Franklin has reduced his dislike toward you again. I didn't understand why, but in an instant, Franklin's face, pale to the point of sickness, opened its eyes, trembling as he reached out slowly, inching his hand toward me. Back then, I hadn't yet grown used to my own cruel role, so I leaned in just close enough to catch his voice. I'll never steal food again. The words were barely out when the kid collapsed. I have a weak heart, but I'd never seen such an innocent child. So I pressed my hand to my chest and listened to the urgent footsteps approaching from outside. Emma cried out, "Franklin!" The situation hit fast. I hadn't even prepared and was already rushing to the hospital. The next day, without so much as packing my bags, I was shipped off abroad. The old man spat. "Mateo, if you don't learn how to behave like a decent human being, you're not coming back." In the novel, the original version of me went abroad with no remorse. Those 6 years were spent having private detectives track Franklin down and secretly manipulating others to isolate him. That only made Franklin more withdrawn and laid the groundwork for when his true actions were exposed, leading to his brutal end at the hands of the main protagonist. I sighed. There's still time. The main protagonist won't show up for a few years yet. Aside from moving the story forward, I'm going to make sure these remaining years lead to a life worth living in this world. Rain lashed against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the study, a relentless drumming that drowned out everything but the quiet hum of my coffee. I stood there, one hand in my pocket, watching Franklin locked outside the villa, soaked to the bone. He'd huddled his backpack over his head like a shield, pale arms trembling slightly, yet not saying a word. He knew I was playing with him. He felt it in every breath. Funny how my own hands were shaking too. This damn system had locked me into this stance, forced me to observe without moving, without blinking. I gritted my teeth. When I get control back, I'm tearing it apart, piece by piece. But there's no choice. The more ruthless I act, the more movement my body unlocks. Freedom comes with cruelty. Less than 5 minutes later, the old man from the Liu family sensed something off at the villa and sent someone to bring the soaked Franklin straight into the study. They called it a chance for brothers to bond. According to the script, I should turn my back now. Watch him broken, cold and mocking. "You're not one of us. You don't belong." Behind me, GC's voice cracked with suppressed shivers from the chill. "You called for me?" He didn't know. I'd never summoned him. He thought it was my doing. The moment had finally arrived. Silence filled the study. I was about to turn, just like the script demanded. Then came a thunderous crack. The plush wool carpet swallowed the sound as my coffee cup shattered beneath me. I winced hard. I'd never felt pain so sharp before. After this life, my nerves were twice as sensitive. My waist was probably bruised black and blue, but in the blur of it all, my eyes caught a pair of faded sneakers, wet stains spreading across the carpet, knees trembling from cold. God. This kid's really suffering. On the outside, I gave nothing away, no flicker, no reaction. In the silent study, I rose at my own pace, brushing off non-existent dust. My height gave me a clear advantage over Franklin, half a head taller. With quiet authority, I lowered my gaze, lips pressed thin. "Go back to your room. Don't come near where I am." Inside, my mind screamed, "Franklin, get back and wash up, no fever, understand?" Reading a story always breaks my heart for the poor little beauty. Now he's right here. How is that any different from secretly raising a child? In the study, Franklin looked worn from the rain. Water dripped from his dark hair onto his shoulders. The veins beneath his eyelids stood out clearly. His thin frame paused, then lifted his eyes slightly toward me. "Okay," he said after a pause. "I'll do as you say." I took a slow breath. Right. Get Emma to bring him milk later and sneak some medicine into his dinner. No one noticed the boy pause at the study door, fingers stilling on the lock before slipping away quietly and clenching his fists in silence. Rain still fell hard. I rubbed my aching arm and sighed. Still, better not take too many cold pills. But I didn't know that later that night, in the silent villa, Franklin collapsed just after eating what little food he'd managed to get that day. Deep into the dark, his thoughts flat and hollow. As he turned toward the house, he instinctively stopped at the spot where I'd accidentally entered the wrong room 2 days before. then scanned to the right, over my room, where I lay asleep and still. He stood there, thinking, can't tell if it's dream or real. Franklin's mind was foggy. He blinked slowly, eyes heavy, taking in the dim room behind drawn curtains, and the tall silhouette blocking the glow of the nightlight. Even in soft loungewear, his broad shoulders and narrow waist were clear. The sharp lines of his face, half hidden in shadow, still held their precision. He knew exactly who it was, but his vision blurred. The words floating in the air felt distant, his body like lead. He glanced dully at the clock, then shut his eyes again. It's 3 a.m., and I'm talking to myself in a panic, a soldering iron. If you take the fever reducer, you won't die. I was always afraid of the cold when I was alive. You piece of artificial nonsense. Do you even understand human warmth? Tomorrow, I'll carry out the cruel task without fail. This idiot has no idea what warmth feels like. What even is artificial intelligence? Was dinner tonight really just fever medicine? Franklin's consciousness slipped completely under. I didn't know a thing. Just simmering frustration from being stuck in another dead-end job. At midnight, the artificial idiot called me to splash cold water on Franklin. I dragged myself through it, dragging my feet like someone drowning in overtime, finally getting warm water ready before pushing open the kid's door. The blanket was kicked into a corner, the thin body curled up shivering, face flushed red, breathing so faint I could barely feel it. Seriously. Not even helping. Thankfully, the kid never knew. I finished tending to him just past 4 in the morning. I reached out and touched his forehead. Good sign. He was getting better. The moon came out for a stroll. I wiped dry my heavy eyelids. Done. Time to go back and sleep. System, make sure you meet the protagonist's resentment threshold by tomorrow. I yawned. Piece of cake. The next night, Franklin was lucid enough to notice. Under the dim yellow glow, I stood there in a suit, holding some props. My expression stayed cold. I said one word, sharp and flat. Do it. I pulled the belt from my waist, showing off a parent's authority with a casual flick. Come on. This one always works on students. Nighttime, Franklin slowly lifted his eyelids. The words, epic level math problems, stared back at him. He said nothing and just took the workbook, working through it until late into the night. Midnight, 11 o'clock. Franklin was slumped over his math problems, half-hearted and lazy, until his gaze drifted to me, already asleep. The original body had a striking face, softer than most men but sharper than most women. Beautiful in a way that made even the faint line of his Adam's apple look deliberate. He snapped back to attention, stunned at what he'd just realized. Morning. The door was ajar. I stretched and opened it, just in time to see Franklin tossing the sheets into the washing machine. Face grim, I sighed. Teenage years really are something. Time moved fast in this novel world. After days of pushing my sneaky, lazy teaching tactics and sticking to the cruel tasks without hesitation, I noticed one thing. Franklin's annoyance level spiked whenever I was around. By year 3, to meet my villainous quota, Franklin had to study the torture-level problems I'd painstakingly found every single day. Emma, I'm planning to move into Franklin's room for a few nights starting tomorrow night to keep an eye on his progress. Can you make the arrangements? From experience, sleeping near him only made things worse. For everyone's sake, I decided to move in. 2 birds with 1 stone. Emma smiled and said, perfect. You 2 brothers should spend more time together. The bond will grow naturally over time. I scowled, cutting off the strange thoughts swirling in my head. What kind of a future? Disgusting. Then came Franklin's chance meeting with Emma. Something was clearly being discussed. Emma lit up visibly. Franklin turned pale as a ghost. What were they even talking about? So began the official cohabitation life. As the story unfolded, I gradually remembered clearer scenes from the future, like the moment my original self died. In the final chapter, Mateo, broken and destitute, grew bitter toward Franklin, the one the Lou family had taken in, and used David's remaining money to set up a kidnapping on a cruise ship. That was when Franklin was abducted by mercenaries hired by Mateo and lost his innocence. When the truth came out, Nicholas brought along his older brother Matthew, who had ties across both legal and underworld circles, to collect my remains on a sunny day. The sea roared wildly. Life ended so lightly. In the original story, what Mateo remembered before he died was only Matthew. He was someone even more powerful and mysterious than Nicholas. lounging on the cruise deck with a lazy grace, lips slightly parted, deciding fate without effort. Maybe it was pain echoing through my body. I woke up suddenly with chest tightness. The system buzzed with static electricity. Error, error, error. I didn't understand what was happening, but my head pounded. I forced myself downstairs for a glass of water to clear my mind. The stairwell was dim, and I caught sight of a slender back just about to climb up. My vision blurred, and I barely opened my mouth to ask for help. Then the steps shifted beneath me. I crashed straight into someone. I tumbled headfirst, a muffled groan from the boy beside me. Franklin's bones pressed hard against my skin, and just like that, the strange pain vanished. Still hasn't put on much weight after 3 years of living here, but his muscles are tight, still taller than me, too. Hey, Franklin, you okay? Franklin's pale face, strikingly beautiful, with a faint scar across his cheek, looked strained. His throat moved as he swallowed. One hand clutched my waist tightly, then the hand on my waist squeezed me and gave a little twist. My pupils flickered, and for a split second, the one who started it went rigid. His arm eased off, and Franklin's lips turned pale. You should get up. People always fidget when they're embarrassed. I coughed twice, scrambling to pull myself off him, only to fall again, then bump into him, and finally end up face to face. A low sound rumbled in Franklin's throat. Heat rose across my cheeks. Still, I managed to stand, and then, in the silence, he played the villain first. Tell me, where were you all this time? There were still scratches on his face, and a bruise blooming under one eye. Franklin lifted his lashes. His gaze lingered, drifting slowly to my collarbone. I followed his eyes. Smooth skin just beneath the neckline, barely hidden. The robe was open all the way to Grandma's place. He shifted uneasily, his dark lashes fluttering once. Are you really that concerned about me? My mouth twitched. Who cares about you? Perfect. That's exactly how the original character would act. But when I took a few steps away from Franklin, the system's pain flared back, sharp and sudden, making my breath tremble. I swayed. His voice came from behind. What's wrong? The closer he got, the less it hurt. My breath came ragged. In a haze, I glanced at him, jaw clenched, eyes sharp with tension. Come here. Just as I'd expected, Franklin moved in without hesitation. The pain vanished the moment he got close, and the system's erratic hum quieted down to nothing. I grabbed his arm, feeling the warmth of skin against mine. My new advanced math textbook just arrived. Let's start it now. For 3 years, Franklin had gotten used to this, but in the dark, no one saw the blush creeping up his ears. His voice came out rough. Okay, that night, I ended up sleeping soundly in Franklin's bed. Poor kid had fallen asleep face down on the desk. I lifted him up and guided him onto the bed. Just as I stretched, the glitchy system finally rebooted, spitting out a robotic voice. Apologies, host. There are current anomalies disrupting stability. We're undergoing maintenance. Please bear with us. I was about to respond. To make up for it, you'll receive full bodily autonomy for 2 months. It felt like a lump of old blood caught in my throat. The next second, I was blinking back tears. Not at all. This is exactly what I'm here for. Franklin was growing more and more off. He used to be cold about everything, but now, the moment he woke up each day, I'd catch him staring at me with this quiet, wounded look. I didn't understand it, but it only made me push harder. The protagonist was grinding through hard work every single day, so I figured, why not go in and stir the pot a little more? It wasn't hurting anyone, just enough to keep Franklin on edge. We were having breakfast that morning. Franklin coughed twice. Out of nowhere, I said coldly, uncultured. The boy's thin back stiffened. His pale eyelids lifted slowly to meet mine. Sorry, I'm done eating. As the words left my mouth, Franklin kicked his chair back and headed upstairs. I glanced at my watch. I still had a meeting today. The original body had no friends at all, but since I arrived, I've lived up to my natural cheerful personality, making plenty of friends abroad during the time I studied overseas. Mostly reckless ones, including Matthew. We video called regularly or met up whenever we could over those 3 years. If being thrown into the sea is inevitable, I'll settle for sneaking in a little romance with Nicholas's cousin instead. quiet and careful, like stealing across enemy lines. I wiped my hands on a napkin, nodding at my own cleverness. When I looked up again, Franklin was standing at the top of the stairs, staring down at me. His deep black pupils were locked onto mine. Unblinking, I gave him a slow glance and let my eyes drift away. So what? He's not going to bite. Let's go. Franklin's voice came down from above, soft, slightly rough with that youthful edge. I want to get out for some fresh air. Go ahead, I said. You're old enough. Do you really need permission from a parent? His amber eyes sparkled. Can you come with me? I smiled. No, 1 second too slow is a disrespect to my life, right? Why would anyone bring their brother along just to find someone? Of course, some brothers are different. I let out a quiet chuckle. Didn't notice Franklin's darkening expression, but the system's alert kept echoing in my mind like a clock ticking. Beep. Franklin's dislike toward you has increased by 50. Silence was all that remained between us tonight. No one else. At this point, Matthew was still just a carefree rich kid. According to the story's path, he'd face a family disaster in 2 years. Father arrested, mother remarried, and spiral into darkness with no way back. Whether it's a road you can return from, I don't know. All I do know is this: if I don't align with true men, I'm done for. I need to win Matthew over while I still can. Standing on the top floor of the mall, I was 187 centimeters tall, sharp features, a tailored suit, soft blue shirt, and a high-end tie. Anyone would have to admit it. I was the definition of wealthy, handsome. Hey, can you cut it out with stealing my territory? My eyes landed on a small round man in a light blue suit, adjusting his glasses with a scowl, glaring up at me while waving a giant flyer. King Phone Insurance. You deserve it, I snapped. You're the one selling insurance. He gave me a suspicious once-over, then smiled shyly. Sorry. I thought you were another one from the same field. A stunningly handsome man suddenly collapsed. Just as he was about to fall, a familiar laugh rang through my ear, and weight settled on my shoulder. Mateo, you're still as entertaining as ever. I tensed instantly. My ears perked up. Is saying a single sentence really that funny? Turning around. Sure enough, Matthew lifted one brow with that familiar look, almost curious about my question, but he still replied with that lazy, gentlemanly charm. What? God, this would make a great little scene. There's gotta be some golden-haired, blue-eyed foreign woman in my head right now, fists pumping up like, yes, what even is interesting? Anyway, only someone you're into would be interesting, right? My face burned, and Matthew chuckled at my reaction, letting out a soft laugh before glancing down at the insurance guy who was clearly on high alert. He extended his hand with a crisp business card. Polite, composed. Hello, I can tell you're dedicated to your job. I'm the owner of this building and... He paused, glancing at the insurance form in the man's hand. The boss of Jingfin. You didn't see me at the annual company event. The little guy puffed up like a squirrel, eyes wide with shock. Boss. Matthew nodded. That's right. And you didn't get proper training, did you? No regular staff are allowed upstairs without permission. The small man flushed bright red, then quickly bowed his head in shame. No, I felt like I'd been struck by lightning, standing there on the side. Best case scenario, this counts as a work injury. Stop. I froze mid-motion. 5 seconds later, Matthew slipped an arm around my shoulder and guided me smoothly toward the top floor office, humming to himself under his breath. Mateo, he's interesting, isn't he? Is interesting something you just keep handing out like candy? I laughed dryly. Your whole family's interesting. When we got to the office, Matthew and I sat across from each other at the boss's desk, staring down at a pile of math textbooks stacked high. A while back, I'd gone out of my way to win Matthew over. Also to make it clear that my care for Franklin wasn't just brotherly. I'd asked him to track down some private advanced math problems, rumored to be unreleased. The symbols on the pages were dizzying. I flipped open two and let out a quiet sigh. Someone who could write this is a genius. Matthew didn't say much, just lifted one corner of his mouth. My cousin wrote it, then added, 18 years old, genius. Cousin. My breath caught as I flipped to the title page. Nicholas was written there, clear as day. Matthew suddenly remembered something. Oh, by the way, he's getting sent to Hangchuan school soon. Looks like he'll be at the same school as your brother. Not just the same school, they're sharing a room. So it was inevitable, really. Franklin turns 18 this year. The untold parts of his past, the half-drawn chapters, are about to turn the page and begin what was always meant to happen next. My mood dropped fast. I closed the book with a heavy exhale, utterly confused. Say, is that ocean really lawless? Matthew raised an eyebrow. What are you talking about? I glanced sideways at him. You're still too young. Matthew, I'm 3 years older than you. I shut my eyes, trying to push back the haze behind them. I couldn't keep up the small talk anymore. I forced a smile, ate 2 more meals on his terms, agreeing outwardly but not in spirit, and finally slipped away with my books under my arm. It was already dark when I got home, the streetlights casting flickering shadows, trees swaying in hushed motion. A cat darted between the bushes now and then. Franklin sat on the front step, his long fingers tracing the curve of a cat's back. It looked almost peaceful. If you ignored the way he was watching me, was it really worth this over just not bringing him along? I cleared my throat, shoved the book into his arms. The night hummed with cicadas. A breeze drifted by. Franklin's voice was low and rough. Did you have fun? Even without anything to hold on to. I'm still feeling low. Kind of. Just wanted to sing. What? In that moment, I looked up at the moon, eyes blurred with unshed tears. I couldn't help but turn into a stubborn fish. Franklin said flatly, "You're heartbroken." No. I corrected sharply. I was making a wish. After a pause, the boy's voice changed, deepened. Then you're still a mermaid. Soft. But I heard every word. I frowned, speechless. Their world really was complicated. Literally had to read between the lines. He must have meant I'm pretty. This kid needs more practice in English. Maybe a competition next term. Finals are coming up fast. Since I can move around freely, there's no need to share a room with Franklin. At night, the kid's hunched over his books under a dim desk lamp, his silhouette bent low. The ceiling above is empty. I'm lying in bed in my pajamas, wrapped in quiet thought. I've been good to Franklin. Really, sure, he's harsh at times, but I always found ways around it. For 3 years, I quietly planted little spies across campus. Anyone who gave him trouble, they paid. When his business hit a wall, I stepped in. He never lacked for essentials. That old shirt, worn thin. I pretended to hate it and tore it up myself, then bought dozens more to replace it. Even when Franklin wasn't happy that one time, he said it was the only thing his mom bought for him before she left abroad. People spend their whole lives clinging to some rare, fake warmth. I don't care for that. Even knowing he hurt, I still tore it apart. You've got to keep moving forward. Staying put just makes you a kid waiting for someone else to save you. What if no one does? In the original story, Franklin was moved by some tiny, meaningless help from Nicholas and turned into this fragile little mess, all teary-eyed and weak. He's a man, taller than me, for God's sake. Fine, even if he does become that soft type, at least he can handle life on his own. He can solve most of the problems he'll ever face. I can't keep showing up to fix everything for him forever. Franklin's tough in a fight. My little spy was just this big, soft guy who looked like he'd eat a whole pie at once. Nothing I could do about his business troubles. Really, only way I helped, sneaking him money now and then. 2 years ago, my brother was already taller than me. The light was faint and dull. Our shadows stretched long across the floor, both of us looking broken under it. But I scowled, stared him down with a cold face. Neither of us would back down. Then the boy just tilted his lips upward, like some wounded creature from childhood, left behind to lick its wounds alone. Eyes red, voice raw. I don't have any family left. Bang, like a piece of my heart cracked. My voice caught in my throat. Then I snapped at him. I'm not your family, so don't be so pitiful. The torn school uniform on the ground was crushed under polished shoes. Rich people's feet never get dirty, but I didn't feel any less broken than Franklin did. He stood still, his shadow stretching long and thin, those rare, striking eyes fixed on me in silence, as if listening to something only he could hear. He always does this, I thought it in my mind. Brother, I lied. We're the only ones who truly matter to each other in this world, blood or not. You were the first person I met here, so you'll have to carry on until you don't need me anymore. My thoughts paused. Until the moment you no longer want me around. Then suddenly, Franklin's weight crashed into me. I went blank. I felt his damp warmth fall onto my shoulder as he cried. His voice was raw and hoarse. Sorry, I won't be pitiful again. I dream about that sentence so many times afterward, always waking up startled. Each time, I closed my eyes and sighed. Asterisk Franklin, tomorrow I'm moving back in. Asterisk. His room was huge, our beds set apart. I could barely hear the faint rustle of fabric. Franklin said quietly, "All right," I nodded. Then the bed dipped beside me. I flinched awake. Franklin's short hair was messy across his forehead. Eyes closed. He looked sweet like that, almost innocent. "Can I sleep with you tonight?" My throat tightened. "You're not exactly a kid anymore." The room was dark. Close. Franklin's expression didn't change. His thick lashes trembled like tiny fans resting on his face. "Old enough?" "Legally, I'm still a minor." His voice was quiet, lips parting slightly. "Noah said his older brother used to carry him to bed when he was little. Something I never had, not even from my mom. Noah's the little chubby guy who always seems so sweet." My chest went hollow, and now that there's no system holding me back, I might as well make the most of these few remaining months. All right then. I woke up several times in the middle of the night. Franklin's a restless sleeper. He never stops clinging to you, but by the second half, I was so tired my eyes kept drooping open. Still, I managed to pull the blanket back over him and let out a quiet yawn. Must have been too warm. He'd pulled away again. Still, in my dreams, the bed always felt off. Like something was poking me. I slept late into the morning. When I finally woke up, Franklin was already gone from the other side of the bed. Emma called down cheerfully that breakfast was ready. I stretched out my arms and pulled myself together, ready for the day. But when I got downstairs, Franklin was already seated at the table, dark circles under his eyes. His skin looked pale, as if someone had punched him twice. "You didn't sleep well last night?" He shook his head and slid a paper notice across the table toward me. Bold print stood out clearly. "Parent-teacher meeting this Friday. That's next week." Couldn't help laughing. Pointed at myself. "Me?" He looked up, dead serious. "Yeah. You're my only parent." I felt a little embarrassed. John never pays attention to us. He just sends money and calls it good for Franklin. After we finished eating, Franklin casually said, "I heard there's a new student joining our class today." The words came slow, and for a heartbeat, my mind went blank. "What's their name?" Franklin looked up, his voice barely above a whisper. "Nicholas. The story is officially on track. But I'm trapped in a Lou family hotel, unable to move. Something's been off lately. I'm weak as a leaf in the wind, not because of my body. It's like someone just dumped a whole story into my mind." Franklin didn't show up at the parent-teacher meeting that Friday, and he never took the college entrance exam, because an unexpected visitor arrived instead. His biological parents showed up. Years ago, Franklin's mother Mia ran away to another country, chasing after his father Maverick, the cold-hearted, ruthless tycoon who abandoned his family and built an empire far beyond the Lou family's fortune. Classic revenge tale. Maverick left his wife behind, never regretted it, kept chasing women through life, until doctors told him he was sterile. That's when he remembered the son he'd forgotten long ago, Franklin, and decided to bring them both back. But that wasn't a happy ending. Later, Franklin's college entrance exam was ruined by those two selfish parents. Because he refused to acknowledge them, the old man lost his temper and locked him up in the G family mansion on exam day, just to prove a point. On that day, Franklin finally wiped the dust off himself. Under sunlight, he shimmered like pearls. No more pretending to be a failure. But then it all came crashing down in an instant, the very moment he thought his fate could change. His real parents. Afterward, the elite circles in Beijing mocked Franklin as a homeless rich kid with no degree, laughing at him without a care for his pride. That's when Nicholas appeared, Franklin's savior. I could feel tears welling up as I realized it all. The story was carefully crafted to break Franklin down on purpose. Every injustice, every wound, just so he'd become fragile and desperate. So the two of them could end up together. But he should have grown into something strong. The kind of man who stands tall like a tree. Dawn was breaking, and I lay motionless in the hotel bed. Franklin and Matthew had both called. Fake promises from the dam system that claimed to lift my restrictions, but really just trapped me again at this crucial moment. "What time is it?" I asked the system weakly, my voice barely there. Another few hours passed. Franklin's real parents would be arriving at the parent-teacher meeting any minute now. Loud and proud. Would Franklin hate me for this? In the original story, he was taken against his will. Leaving home had been so sudden. He was still studying when I left. No proper goodbye at all. System. The parent meeting begins at 8 a.m. A few tears slipped down, and warmth spread through my face like a shock. Numb, unfeeling, I stared blankly at the ceiling. I'm going to find Matthew. If this part of the story has nothing to do with me or him, then let me go to him. The system seemed to take a moment to respond. A steady beep echoed in my ears. After a pause, the system finally came back online. All right, the system confirms this path is feasible. Stepping out of the hotel, I still felt like death warmed over. The front desk manager knew me. Recognized the old man. He stepped close with a respectful nod. Mr. Matteo, do you need assistance? Thank God I wasn't done yet. Tears welled up as I gripped his hand. My face still stiff from the system's control. Take me to a high school. Thinking of that stupid machine, I took a breath and added, find Matthew. I exhaled. Once I finally settled into the car, I almost cried from pride in my own cleverness. Matthew would be at the parent meeting today. The truth is, most parents in the main cast don't have complete families. Certainly not ones that warm or supportive. Take David and me, for example. Nicholas and Franklin's parents are similar. The kind of kids who've always been overlooked, barely cared for by either parent. Outside the car window, traffic and trees blurred past. In the rearview mirror, my face looked pale and sickly. Eyes red. No joke. Like a vampire's. The front of Ada attached high was jammed with cars. Someone muttered nearby, who even sent out 88 vehicles just for a parent-teacher meeting? We're all stuck here. Some people still have to go to war. 88 cars. I couldn't help but sigh. That god must be Maverick. By the time I rushed in on shaky legs, only a few scattered students and parents remained. Franklin stood with his back to me. His thin frame lonely against the wall. I could just make out his clenched fists. Noah's chubby face was drawn with worry as he watched him. Nicholas lounged at the back, sucking on a lollipop like nothing mattered. He looked just as described in the story, tall and lean, tousled curls framing sharp features, deep-set eyes, a hint of softness in his almond-shaped gaze, a straight nose, pale skin that made him stand out. No one noticed me. Only Matthew stood there, frown tight, voice edged with irritation. I said, Franklin's been raised by the Liu family. If you want to take him, you have to talk it through with them and do a DNA test. Back then, Matthew was still all principle and restraint. No different from a good man, not the killer he'd become later. Mia brushed her fingertip against her eye. Even at 40, with perfect care and natural grace, every movement looked delicate. Like a woman on the edge of tears, she stared at Franklin through watery eyes. We don't need a DNA test. I remember that day so clearly. The last time I left for overseas, Franklin cried, wouldn't let go of me. Not even once. The silence hung thick. Only Franklin's cold laugh broke through. But you still left me. Nicholas was drawn in quickly. Maverick had never been patient to begin with, and now he was even more agitated. Enough. Come home with us, Mia pleaded through tears, her voice breaking. Damn it all. This damn system. I wanted to scream earlier. Now she remembers the son? All she did was bring me a worthless old man to fool around with, and that's how Franklin survived these past 10 years. If I hadn't come here, Franklin wouldn't have lived at all. Furious inside, I stormed into the classroom, clutching my cane. Let it out. I was furious. My mind suddenly surged with a sharp, piercing electric current I couldn't control. The pain made me grip my head and grit my teeth. Franklin, go home. Franklin's cold, guarded eyes cracked open. His expression softened into something fragile, a faint haze of confusion traced by bloodshot rims. Only his lips trembled slightly. My senses were hazy. I focused on Mia and Maverick, speaking each word slowly. A parent who doesn't raise their child has no right to call themselves one, no matter how strong the emotion. It meant nothing at all to Maverick. It just fell silent like a tide. He gave two slow, mocking laughs. 5 million. Does that cover it? Light as a feather, my thoughts were suddenly seized. I could feel the system gripping me tight, my soul detached from my body on its own. My eyes went blank, but my face twisted into something obsequious. The original personality script written for Matteo in the novel locked me in completely. I took his hand, and I made my demand. Bold and unapologetic. Matteo, Maverick, I want 200 million. The words hung in the air. Everyone froze. Matthew, who'd been watching with interest just a moment ago, now looked completely lost. Nicholas raised an eyebrow and whispered something to him. Maverick gave a cold snort and agreed without hesitation. Fine, 200 million it is. Mia leaned against Maverick like a willow in the wind, her smile fragile and sweet. I kept grinning, unbothered. Franklin stood to the side, silent, his expression eerily similar to Nicholas's just moments before. A system warning flashed in my mind. Do not interfere with the plot. Failure to comply will result in an earlier end for the original host. All my efforts wasted. In the scene, I was still speaking nonsense with a smug grin. As the story reached its climax, Maverick turned furious. Bring in the men. Take Franklin away. I spun in my mind, frantic. Then black-clad guards flooded in. The classroom grew packed in seconds. Franklin remained calm. Wait! All eyes turned to him, confused. Franklin slowly took my wrist. His gaze traced the tiny shifts in my eyes. His voice was low and rough. I can leave, but only if Mateo comes with me. Otherwise, I die here today. The little guy noticed first. He gasped, pointing a trembling finger at the sharp blade glinting at Franklin's waist. Danger, Franklin. Franklin dragged the blade to his throat. His skin was pale, veins clear beneath the surface. The tip glided across delicate flesh. In the classroom, I stood frozen, my face twisted into a sneer. Stop talking nonsense. Franklin, you've been nothing but a burden from the start. Franklin's profile was sharp, the noon sun spilling across his face like gold. His lashes fluttered with a delicate motion, like a butterfly taking flight, adding to the mystery in his expression. His eyes were rimmed red, yet he smiled brightly. Then I'll stick to you, be your burden for the rest of my life. It wasn't easy to grasp what he meant. Someone unfamiliar might think he was punishing me, but that wasn't it at all. Those who understand don't need words. The system didn't unlock until I was already in the car. G family's villa was extravagant, right in the heart of bustling Beijing, yet oddly secluded nearby. Lu family's patriarch cared only about business. Maverick mentioned a small project collaboration, and John handed both me and Franklin over to them without hesitation. Now it's my turn. I'm the one living under someone else's roof now. Fate turns full circle. Heaven has changed its heart. The G family is possessive. Franklin isn't allowed outside, and they've hired a private tutor just for him. And Mia, desperate to make up for lost motherhood, never leaves Franklin's side. She cries out about her years of suffering, how she couldn't understand why he remained so cold toward her. Now she stands at the bedroom door, tears falling fast. Franklin, don't you miss your mother? She reaches for the door, but a sudden arm blocks her. Mia freezes, startled, then looks up. Franklin's amber eyes slowly grow cold. His voice is low. Don't come near me. Mia freezes. Then I feel the weight of her stare. Icy, sharp, her composure shatters. Franklin, Mom endured everything for you. Mateo doesn't deserve your gratitude. He doesn't. Mia's voice cracks. I found out years ago. Lu family never treated you well. It was him who caused your isolation at school. So why are you being so kind to him? The flaw in her logic is obvious, but she doesn't see it. She screams into the vast, ornate halls of G family. The night light glows bright. Franklin lowers his lashes, casting shadows beneath his eyes. No expression at all, yet coldness radiates from him like frost. After a long silence, Harper, the moment those words left his lips, Mia froze solid. Franklin said, I'm warning you. My affairs, everything between me and Mateo, from now on, you have no say in them. The door clicked shut behind him, sealing off every sound. I stared at the floor for a long time, unsure what to say. A bitter ache spread through me. All these years, I'd done everything I could to make things better for him in the Lu family. Yet even then, it had only been a drop in the bucket, and still, he'd reacted so deeply to those small gestures that he'd gone against his own parents. The room was cold and still, bigger than any space I'd known in the Lu family. I curled into the corner of the couch, my smile awkward, clearing my throat. I tried to lighten the mood with a joke. Nice. Finally calling me by name. Franklin's lips pressed together. After a long pause, he said quietly, I can. The tone was soft, but there was stubbornness underneath. This kid never plays by the rules. I let out a defeated sigh. Whatever. I'm just here, so whatever you say goes. The silence stretched too long. Frowning, I glanced at him, only to catch his gaze lifting toward me. His eyes had darkened slightly. So, can I really say whatever I want now? I sat up straight, gritting my teeth. You dare. The sofa dipped beside me as Franklin smiled. Deep and slow, his lips curved like moonlight on a white flower about to bloom. I'm yours, whatever you want. It wasn't just words. This was real, the kind that hit straight to the heart, like a promise carved in silence, like something meant to last. He repeated it, quiet and deliberate. All yours. The sofa in the bedroom was tiny, our legs pressed tight together with no room to spare. The words hung in the air, carrying an unspoken tension that rose like heat up my cheeks. I awkwardly ran a hand through my hair, ready to get up, but then I tripped over the wool rug on the floor and landed hard against it, wincing as pain shot through me. This body felt every ache far more sharply than most. Tiny injuries could leave me breathless. Now, curled on the ground, I trembled from the pain. Even tears welled in my eyes, shimmering under the grand chandelier above. This had happened too many times before. Usually Franklin would handle everything with care. But this wasn't Lou family. There was no Emma here, and I didn't know where the first aid kit was. He frowned deeply, his brow furrowed. He lifted me up and carried me to the bed in one swift motion. Just as he turned to leave, I grabbed his wrist with a sharp intake of breath. It's nothing, I said. Don't go. Going out would mean asking for help. And that wouldn't be simple. We both knew the truth behind it. Franklin's eyelids were faintly red. He sat beside me, lowering his head slightly as he gently wiped away the tear at my eye with his thumb. Then he spoke, quiet but firm. You trust me. I'll make sure you can do whatever you want. Nothing will stop you after this. My little brother really has grown up. My brother's really grown up now. Suddenly, I broke down and sobbed uncontrollably. Promise me one thing, I whispered. Don't throw me into the sea. Franklin looked confused, but he nodded anyway, his lips curling in reluctant acceptance. Okay, I won't. Maybe it was my thoughts shaping my dreams, because that night, after finally drifting off, I found myself trapped in a nightmare. Being thrown into the ocean, the sea stretched endlessly below me, air thin and cold, water pressed from every side as I struggled to breathe, bubbles escaping my lips with each desperate gasp. Just when I felt myself fading, a sudden warmth met my mouth. Air rushed in. I clung to him, burying my face against his waist and closing my eyes, unable to see or hear anything, nothing but silence. Then I felt it. A massive fish tail. In that instant, terror snapped me awake, and what I saw shocked me to my core. The one who had saved me was a merman, face like carved stone, abs defined, angles sharp. His eyes held a glint you couldn't read. Franklin, his big hand circled my waist without effort, his gaze tracing the shape of my lips beneath my fluttering eyelids before he leaned in and brushed his tongue across them. You're mine now, damn it. Thunder cracked outside. Cold sweat prickled my skin. I caught myself licking my lips, savoring the memory, then froze when I realized what I'd done. My face burned. Across the nightstand, Franklin lay peaceful and composed, his lips slightly flushed. For a split second, he looked exactly like the merman from my dream, the one who kissed me back to life. Stop it. I squeezed my eyes shut, then opened them, only to find him awake, hair tousled, dark circles under his tired eyes. Probably saw the lightning. Without a word, he stretched out an arm and pulled the blanket up to my chin before letting out a low, rough, "Don't be afraid." Wait. Too smooth for someone who's just woke up, come to think of it. Yeah, that year, I'd moved into his room on purpose, to raise my hatred score. Rain, wind, thunder. Anything that scared me had to be him. I played the spiteful brat hard, but Franklin never seemed fazed. Only ever said something like, "You're more annoying tonight." The system told me straight, hatred points only go up, not down. If I lower them, I get punished. If I increase them, I gain freedom. But it didn't work much. Franklin's mind was always a mystery to me. He never actually hated me. Franklin's war with the G family never ends, because I'm a guest in their home. My world is confined to just our bedroom and the small sitting room. Franklin has to go to the study every day for his lessons with the tutor. The sitting room has terrible soundproofing. It opens straight into the main living area. I've heard that tutor tell both G family members more than once how disappointed he is. Your son just doesn't have the aptitude. There's little hope for his future. Maverick loses it every time. He marches in, chest out, pointing straight at Franklin's bedroom like he's in some old drama. Franklin isn't my blood, fine. I'll admit he's useless, But don't you dare deny me. Mia gently pats his back, trying to calm him down. A few moments later, Maverick gave a cold snort. Go find William and tell him. If he doesn't finally accept us, he'll never leave this house, not even when he's dead. William was the estate's butler, with the college entrance exams just around the corner. Mia spoke up, honey, kids this age are all going through rebellion. It's not urgent. Let's wait until after the exams to talk about it. And what exams? I'm telling him. Once and for all, who's in charge here? Couldn't stay any longer. I quietly headed upstairs to talk to Franklin. I'd rather lie a little than risk my whole future over something that could have been fixed with a small fib. The villa had 6 floors, and the bedrooms were on the 3rd. William stood at the doorway of the 3rd-floor hallway, his back hunched, not even stepping inside before finally turning away with a defeated sigh. We passed each other briefly, his expression caught between words. And then he spoke. Master Mateo, please help the young master. I was silent. Why don't you help him instead? William just shook his head and walked away with a faint smile, as if I were naive. Inside, the room was bright and spacious. Franklin wore a long-sleeve pajama top, still damp from the shower, curled up on the sofa with his fingers pressed to his forehead, utterly drained. I'd never seen him like this before. After a long pause, I finally spoke. Franklin, just pretend to give in for now. He opened his eyes. A faint smile flickered behind them, so light it was almost unnoticeable. As he tilted his lips upward, how exactly do you want me to give in? I didn't hesitate. I told him straight, admit he's your father now, then run after the exams. Oh, and bring me along when you do. That last part was just a joke to lighten the mood. I stood across from him, lowering my gaze to meet Franklin's, and saw clearly how his eyelashes were dampened, shivering slightly under the shifting light. It was hard to tell if it was tears or strands of hair glistening with water. One hand clung tightly to mine, then his head buried into my waist. His fingertip was cold, and I went rigid. What's wrong? Let's run away now. The machine in my head, like a ticking bomb, screamed to life again. My eyes burned, but I couldn't back down. Defying the script would mean disaster. I still remembered how it felt to die last time. Worst of all, I can't control my body. This system does. The arms around me tightened slowly. No, Franklin, I'm sorry, but this life is too precious to lose. The grip around my waist loosened. Not surprisingly, Franklin let out 2 quiet laughs, his voice trembling. I know. For a moment, something inside me cracked. Franklin turned away and stood up. Yet I caught the redness in his eyes, the pale smile still on his lips. So I'll never surrender. I had nothing left to say. The next day, all signals were cut off just like before. Only difference was, tomorrow was the exam. Tonight would be my last chance to move freely. Maverick had the villa sealed tight. I was frantic, but Franklin stayed calm, quietly working through problems. My silence roared louder than words. I couldn't wait around. I thought it over, then went to the living room while Franklin napped. William was there reading. I walked straight in and asked without hesitation, what exactly are you threatening Franklin with? William turned a page, calm as ever. Don't know. I let out a bitter laugh. If it were just about reclaiming family roots, Franklin wouldn't be this stubborn. There's something he hasn't agreed to. Something I don't know. William was about to speak when Mia's voice cut in sharply, cold and clear. Then let me tell you myself. In the study, Mia slammed a stack of reports down in front of me. She stood over me with that old, familiar superiority, like I just returned to the Liu family all over again. And now Franklin was the one being held back by her. I didn't have time for her games. I picked up each report one by one. Every detail of Franklin's life within the Liu family, laid bare. There were photos too. All of them were of Franklin, a boy maybe 10, face bruised and eyes hollow, sitting alone in the school cafeteria with the cheapest meal on his tray. So small, so thin. Mia watched me, her lips curling into a mocking smile. Are you acting out sympathy now? She took the photo from my hand, her finger tracing the small face in it, her gaze softening into something like sorrow. Then she whispered to herself, I did everything for him, gave him every comfort I could, and still, he wouldn't forgive me. But you, your cruelty toward him? He still chose you. Her words were, I raised him for 10 years. I've earned more of his heart than you ever could. At the very end, Mia's eyes locked onto one final page. My breath caught, my fingers frozen as I reached out to lift it. It was a life insurance policy, signed by Franklin, beneficiary, Mateo. My chest tightened. What does this mean? Mia started laughing. Then her voice broke into tears. She grabbed the rest of the reports and hurled them at me, eyes wide with fury. How should I know? The beneficiary is still you. What have you and the Liu family done to him all these years? Tell me, was it you who made him do this? The study door swung open. I froze. The air turned sharp, cold. His mother looked flustered, trying to hide something, her expression stiff and shifting. But instead of a reply, she lowered her gaze and saw Franklin gripping my wrist. He moved slowly, his footsteps soft on the wool carpet. Not a word, not even a glance. The simplest way to break someone is just to ignore them. Silence. Through clenched teeth, she asked, Franklin, don't you owe Mom an explanation? Her words met only the hollow echo of the empty study. Mia didn't follow. It was noon, bright, still, a deep corridor under summer's glare. The sun cut through too strong, making eyes water, a season heavy with heat and unease. But Franklin held my hand tightly. Something had been different for a long time now. I tried to pull free, just a little. Nothing worked. Let go. The words hadn't even finished when his hand, already damp with sweat, released me. I felt a sudden ache in my chest. It really had happened. And the insurance policy. What was the point now? The G family villa was vast, empty, filled only with endless cameras and infrared sensors, guarding assets, watching those they couldn't control. Franklin didn't turn back. His eyes rested quietly on something ahead. Tomorrow, you're going back to the Liu family. I stopped. What? He paused too, saying nothing. His usual calm eyes held mine. Gentle, deliberate, as if tracing every line of my face with a brush, imprinting them deep into bone. Just for an instant, then he turned, pulling me toward the bedroom. Tomorrow's the college entrance exam. I want you to stay with the Liu family. My palms were slick with sweat, but Franklin's hand was cool against mine. A little voice in my head paced back and forth. My throat felt like it had a stone lodged in it. I was stuck between two choices. You never went to the exam in the story, kid. After a long silence, I finally spoke. I'm not going back. Franklin moved his lips. I'll have them take you. The bedroom door clicked shut. I'd had enough of games. I turned on him. Franklin, what are you hiding from me? And why's my name on your insurance policy? Why would a decent man like you fill out something like that? I'd never felt this raw. The mirror across the room reflected my face. Sharp, cold by design. My eyes were narrow and dark when I narrowed them, making me look calculating and distant. Thin lips, as though bookish men always lacked depth in feeling, especially when they were scolding. You want answers, not a question. A statement. Franklin lifted his eyelids slightly, meeting my gaze. A faint smile tugged at the corner of his lips. All right, he said quietly. His eyes darkened, tall and solid. He raised a hand slowly to cup my face, tracing my brow, my cheekbone, each movement deliberate, almost reverent, like ants crawling over skin. I felt it all the way down my spine. Franklin looked at me and said, I like you. My mind went blank. My heart slammed in my chest. I turned pale, then white, as if the words themselves were too heavy to understand. You're sick. I slapped him hard across the face. Franklin grunted, and my hand trembled afterward. The next instant, Franklin had me pinned against the door. Silence hung like ice. My pupils flared. He leaned down slightly, holding his position steady, his lips trembling faintly as he kissed me. To be honest, the kiss had no skill or passion. Like fighting a brutal battle alone in an endless desert, blinded by wind and sand. I whimpered, then bit down hard enough to break his lip. Franklin didn't seem to feel a thing. The kiss ended, our foreheads touched, our noses pressed close, our breaths still ragged. His voice came raw and low. I love you. I let out a cold laugh, lying without feeling. I like Matthew. Why did everything feel so different now? Where was that damn system this time? Why wasn't it making me act like a wicked stepbrother, forcing me to play this scene alone? You've lied so many times already. Franklin's eyes were rimmed red, his lashes damp with tears. I always hear what you really mean to say. A heavy stone cracked inside me. I lifted my gaze. Franklin looked at me, sunlight fierce and bright. Fragments of light in his eyes stung like tears catching the sun. I couldn't speak. After a long silence, I finally managed to ask. Franklin lowered his lashes, his fingertip brushing my lip. The test you tore up, the medicine Emma slipped for you, the money you secretly gave me, every harsh thing you said on purpose. I heard it all. I froze. You heard everything? Franklin's voice was rough, just a single nod. And your system too. His voice was thin and raw with pain. You're not from this world. But you're the only one here who's ever truly cared for me. And yet, you can't move freely. My skin went cold, like every organ in my body was being reshaped. Maybe it was just the world cracking open, reality slipping between true and false. Franklin's eyes were red as he brushed his thumb along my cheek. I know you'll die in the sea because of me. Each word hit like a hammer. I froze where I stood. He knew all of this, so I won't let it happen. He pressed his lips to mine. I love you. The dog system made another move to slip away. I'm staying in the bedroom, keeping calm until the clock hits 8 at night. The door opens. No Franklin. It's William, the estate's butler. He's in a suit and gives a polite gesture, inviting me inside. Mateo, our master won't be seeing you off. I can't leave now. I'm about to refuse when four well-trained black-suited guards suddenly appear behind him. The G family doesn't welcome long-term guests. It's clear enough. Genetics really do run deep. Maverick's thug tactics are straight out of Franklin's playbook now. No surprise they're father and son. I take a slow breath, tamping down my anger. Get Franklin here. The outcome's obvious. Another long limousine pulls up behind me. I wait outside the G family estate for ages, but Franklin never shows. Maybe parting is always this sudden. I keep thinking about that night I died in my past life. Silent, painless. Yet it left a thorn in my heart. For guards stood in perfect formation just outside the gate. There were gardeners, chefs, and housekeepers I'd never seen before. No energy left to wonder what it all meant. I got in the car, feeling the hot wind brush my face. Something restless stirring inside. William bowed with a smile as I settled in. Mission complete. Then come back and deal with me. I didn't close the window. William's voice faded as the car pulled away. The master specifically said today marks his official return. So the welcome must be grand. Enough to celebrate with Mr. Maverick and Madame when they come back. A chorus of crisp, synchronized replies reached my ears. My throat tightened. Was I finally giving in? Good. Then tomorrow you'll finally take your first step forward. Maverick was a crude Aravista who rose from nothing. Later, the elite youth of the capital looked down on Franklin. Not just for never taking the college entrance exam, but because Maverick forbade him from studying abroad. Prodigy, crushed by narrow vision. When the G family eventually fell, Franklin's limited perspective left him with no real business sense. So in the end, he ended up serving Nicholas, a second-generation playboy. I told the driver to stop and open the window. I stayed like that for a long while, waiting until my mind settled before nodding for us to continue. But less than 3 minutes later, an explosion nearby jolted the car to a halt. The driver froze in shock. Something's wrong. The villa just exploded. Franklin's gaze at me that noon flashed back in an instant, and the insurance policy with me as beneficiary. Franklin, my chest tightened. I shouted, "Go back now." The driver hesitated. "Mateo, it's too dangerous to go back right now. If it's a bomb, there could be more blasts." I didn't wait for him to finish. I leapt out of the car and sprinted back, body half floating from sheer urgency. Blood filled my throat. My breath came in jagged shakes, legs trembling under me. The mansion, once grand and flashy, was now engulfed in flames. I stared at the black smoke, eyes burning. Franklin, I thought, if this is how you're choosing to buy my freedom, then I'll never forgive you. 3 minutes away, but it took me 10 to get back. William was outside the mansion, frantically calling for help. I lunged at William and grabbed his jacket. "What the hell are you doing here, William?" My voice cracked with fury. "Why aren't you saving him? What are you waiting for?" William tried to calm me. "It's too dangerous, Mateo." I clenched my fists, then let go. I picked up a flower pot from the ground and charged into the fire without looking back. William stared in shock, reached out, but missed my coat. He gritted his teeth and shouted, "Damn it, there's still a bomb inside. You can't go in now, Mateo." A section of the building collapsed above us, dark fire swallowing everything. I tore off my shirt and pressed it over my face. I smashed through a window with the flower pot, heat searing every inch of me. The stairs were gone. Nothing left but rubble. I climbed upward one step at a time. Boom! The blast on the right nearly shattered my eardrums. Dust filled my vision, and the shock forced me to drop to my hands and knees. It took a few minutes before I could even crawl up, my bare chest burning from the flames, the pain of torn flesh nearly overwhelming me. But despair was stronger than that. The mansion was huge and empty. Where the hell was Franklin? My vision spun, the once orderly villa now a wasteland. I scrambled like a blind insect, my fingers tearing against broken debris, each sharp stab echoing the real fear of dying. It hurt. So much it hurt. I couldn't tell what struck my shoulder or what pierced through my skin. Later, I finally let out a sob. My voice raw and ragged. Near the fallen crystal chandelier, someone lay still, perfectly quiet, no movement. Eyes closed, almost like a fairy tale princess asleep in a tomb. Only Franklin was a man. I sucked in air and dragged myself toward him. My mind, blank before, began to return. Tears fell hard, mixing with blood and dust. I wasn't the kind to cry, but now I couldn't stop. Franklin, I choked out between sobs, my nose running into my mouth. Please, wake up. He was right there, close enough to touch. I remembered a trick from TV and pressed 2 fingers to his nose. No breath. His cheek was cold. He'd been badly hurt. No pain awareness at all. Pale as paper. His lips drained of color. I gripped his sleeve tight, buried my face in the crook of his neck, and cursed him under my breath. You don't deserve to be loved. Emotion only comes after it's gone. I wept, raw and broken. Did you plan this? Did you know I'd come back to save you? Just wake up, I whispered, my voice hoarse to the edge of silence. If you open your eyes, I'll stay with you forever. Anything you want, just say it. But all I got was silence, cold as ice. My hands trembled around Franklin's, dust swirling in the air as everything around us cracked apart. The sirens sounded weak here, like the world itself was ending. So dark it felt like I'd already reached the afterlife. A massive explosion roared in my ears again. The blast split the floor beside us. I was barely breathing, collapsing into Franklin's side with what little strength I had left. His face was pale as stone. Mine wasn't much better. Fine. This is it then. Dazed and fading, I coughed hard, my eyelids heavy. Franklin's profile was calm, just like always, but a red streak leaked from his lips. I leaned in and kissed him softly, my voice barely above a whisper. Let it end this way. The explosion beside me tore everything apart in an instant. Silence returned, complete and still. I woke up in a silent, empty hospital. The person lying in the bed was someone I knew too well. Me from my last life, dead of a sudden heart attack. Honestly, no pain at all. It must have just happened. I looked peaceful, and the nurses had already tried every way to reach my family. Turns out I don't have any relatives or friends. I can explain that part. I lost both parents when I was young. After leaving the orphanage, I barely scraped together a job. But I was too quiet, too stuck in my routine, just work and home, nothing else. Outside of that, all I ever did was watch BL. Back when I was younger, I shared my interests, but the moment people at work found out, especially since everyone there was a middle-aged man, they just pulled away from me. I sighed. They were probably wheeling me toward the morgue by now. Try to reach anyone who might be related, said the senior doctor as he walked off. He's unconscious. What happens next is up to fate. Still alive? I couldn't believe the answer I just got. The scene froze, then shifted to another dark space. The system stumbled over its words. Sorry, Mr. Mateo. I let out a cold scoff. So I wasn't dead enough for you? I get shuffled into the ghost category and sent off to complete tasks? Exactly. The system's mechanical voice sounded apologetic. Headquarters misjudged your status, but since you failed the mission and Franklin died in the explosion, causing the original novel world to collapse, we finally have a chance to speak face to face. Franklin's name sent a chill through me. So what now? What do you want? The system's tone lightened. We've decided to send you back to your original world, fix the novel's bugs, erase all traces of you from that timeline, and restore everything to normal. Darkness swallowed my thoughts. I felt like I was drowning in them. How is that supposed to be normal? The one who gets crushed by plot lines, full of self-doubt and weakness, waiting for Nicholas to rescue him like a sobbing little kid. The system paused, then confirmed after a beat. Yes, in fact, stories like this have strong audiences. Our entire system exists to keep worlds running smoothly, so every narrative reaches its intended ending, making readers happy and satisfied. I let out a sharp laugh. And what about the readers who aren't happy? The system hesitated, struggling to process the question. Idiot, you extinguish a candle completely, then turn on a bulb beside it and call it lighting the way. But what about the light Franklin was meant to have all along? I felt a deep ache in my chest. Franklin had real talent, could have gone far in the exams, but instead he's trapped at home for no good reason. Is this what you call reader appeal? The silence stretched too long. Then, without warning, the system went dark. A voice suddenly echoed from the emptiness. My ears twitched. A weathered, familiar tone rang out. Mateo, you've never given up on that old dream, have you? David, caught red-handed, the ever-present sidekick, laughed it off. Work calls for a little role-playing now and then. He cleared his throat. We've shared something real in this story, so here's my offer. Since we messed up, you get to choose this time. 1. Go back to your world and keep living. 2. Return to the novel and be yourself. The helper explained with a smile. Franklin and you both died in that explosion. To keep the story going, we tweaked things. Franklin was pulled out alive, while you stayed buried under the ruins of the G family villa, but not truly gone. Once you're back in your body at the hospital, you'll live freely here. No more tracking from the system. I paused. Will Franklin remember me? The man laughed again. You didn't even say which one you picked. I was asking a question. Is he just mocking me? He must have sensed my unease. A small cough. Well, fate's in play. True love always finds its way. I gritted my teeth. Then get me back already. Stop wasting time. The moment I finished saying that, I was yanked back into a small rental apartment. My gut told me I'd just been played by some damn puppet. This was the exact same place I died in. This can't be right. I'm asking a question here. Then suddenly, someone appeared before me, a stranger's face. But there was concern in his eyes. You okay? You look pale. Maybe skip the G group interview today. Try again later. Before he even finished, I snapped out. G group? Who runs it? Franklin, obviously. He's the boss at just 25. Got the company into the Fortune 500 in only 3 years. My roommate added, survived a near-death experience and came out stronger. That's what they say, but he's been weird ever since. Fires people left and right. We gotta watch our backs. I didn't wait to hear more. I grabbed my bag and pulled him along. First, the interview. You can tell me everything else on the way. Hey, hold on. My roommate called out. In that short walk, I learned the truth. 5 years had passed in this world. Franklin hadn't taken the college entrance exam. He'd gone abroad to study finance after the disaster and made it big. Turns out my roommate's name was Samuel. According to the setup, he was my university roommate. This body had just graduated this year, and I still went by Mateo. But the one thing that was different from my past life, now, I'm fully myself, body, mind, and voice. When the interviewer asked me 3 questions and I couldn't answer any of them, he kicked me out without hesitation. While Samuel went in for his own interview, I stood outside the skyscraper searching for Franklin. No luck. Just as I was feeling defeated, someone bumped into my shoulder. Matthew. The words left my lips, and even I froze for a beat. He was wearing a tailored suit that hugged his frame perfectly. Classic British style, showing off every line of him. When he heard me say his name, he frowned slightly. Sorry, do we know each other? Never mind. I shook my head, stumbling over an explanation. Just saw you on TV. He tightened his jaw, gave me a polite nod. Fine. Then I won't bother you. That's when Samuel came jogging over, grinning from ear to ear. Mateo, what are you doing here? My heart jumped. Matthew paused for just a second, then without looking back, kept walking. Samuel had nailed the interview. I was dazed. Samuel noticed I wasn't myself and stayed close, guiding me to the elevator. We ended up at the executive one by accident. He scratched his head and let out a low whistle. Big companies really are different. My thoughts snapped back, just as I was about to say something reassuring. Then the elevator doors slid open. Franklin and Matthew stood inside. My eyes burned. The man I'd cared for 10 years looked thinner than ever. Didn't even seem to realize it was summer, wearing a long-sleeve suit. Franklin was staring at me too, his lips trembling slightly. Samuel had seen both of them in magazines before. He knew they weren't someone to mess with, nodded once, and started pulling me away. Stop right there. My wrist was suddenly seized by a pair of cold hands. I turned in shock, and Matthew frowned, stepping in Franklin, he's just named Mateo. Coming back to life is impossible in any century. Matthew didn't doubt it for a second, but Franklin didn't let go. If anything, he tightened his grip, pulling so hard I winced, yet still wouldn't release me. Franklin's eyes were dark as coal, voice low and rough. Matthew, would you please take him out for a moment? I need to speak with him. Matthew hesitated, then gave in. In the executive elevator, I stayed silent. My eyes were red-rimmed. Franklin's expression was hard to read. Like a stone sealed for years, blank and still, or like a leaf torn apart too many times, eyelashes drooping as he looked at me. But the storm beneath his calm was far greater than it showed. I wasn't going to hide it from him. This book had never brought him anything but pain. Even with his skyscrapers and power, there were scars inside that no one could see. I was once the one who carved those wounds into him. Then let me fill them in. No need to lie. Franklin's path has been too hard already. If every one of his old sorrows never finds peace, at least let him have one moment that feels whole and real. I'll believe in him. He won't fall for anyone else. Not ever. My voice cracked as I laughed. Coming back to life. Surprise. That's what the tool from the system headquarters told me. From the moment I first met Franklin, he's always seen me for who I really am. This is his flaw. How could it not be a mercy from fate? Franklin stood motionless, but the tear rolling down his cheek gave away everything. His lips moved, trying to speak, but no sound came out. I knew exactly what he was trying to say, just like I knew he loved me. In love, there's never a proud person. Whether you're the one who bends down or lifts up first doesn't matter. I kissed his lips, as sincere and true as that day when the explosion ripped through everything. Long time no see. You've been through so much. Our eyes held each other. Clear, raw, and full of truth. Franklin leaned in and kissed me back with everything he had, pouring every ounce of love into it. I love you. From now on, no matter how far the road ahead or how hard it gets, it doesn't matter.